define your mood by how well a call goes or your day goes, because you're going to have great days, you're going to have bad days, and if it impacts your mood, you're going to constantly be in this kind of yo-yo state of mind.
Getting to the point where you can close 6- and 7-figure deals, it takes some work, it takes some talent, it takes some skills. And obviously, this is why you're listening to this podcast. On this episode today, we're going to talk to you about how you can do a better job of selling 6- and 7-figure deals over the phone. Some strategies and insights that you need to apply to see the results. You're going to love this one. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have an amazing guest. It's a big shot, Scott Smyth. I want you to be able to go and connect with him on LinkedIn. We have his information down in the show notes. But Scott and I are going to talk about how we can utilize the phone and have a better conversation to close 6- and 7-figure deals, or to help those deals progress. You got my attention, Scott. Now, we set it up perfectly where I'm now curious about this idea of these 6- and 7-figure deals. What's the difference? You kind of alluded to that, sometimes below is 6 figures and more on an emotional purchase rather than when you're going above 6- and 7-figure. Talk to me about that. Why is that the case? And just let's frame that part up before we dive into some of these tactics.
The first thing for us, and typically any product that justifies a 6- or 7-figure price point, needs to appeal to more than one person within the organization you're selling to. Either multiple people within one function, but probably various stakeholders across multiple functions. So we sell data and insights, and our data and insights could be worth $50,000 to one person with one use case. But there might be 10 people in that company that could use us. And therefore, we're selling the same thing. But rather than get a $50,000 price point, we're able to get a $500,000 price point for selling the same thing, but just appealing to more personas and solving more business problems. So one thing I make sure that my team do in the field is when we have a good demo or a good meeting and someone within our customer is looking like they want to buy the product, that isn't the end of that opportunity. That is the catalyst for us to say, right, let's now go and piggyback off the back of that success and go and find 3, 5, 9 other people in this organization that are going to club together and drive a cross-functional data strategy. And what happens is not only do you get more budget contributions, getting you closer to that 6- and 7-figure ambition, when you're challenged internally around, is this worth it? What are we going to do with it? What's the ROI? If the CFO or the CEO or the chief strategy officer, whoever's ultimately signing off for the solution, has got multiple people within their business across different functions that have got different pain points, all putting their hand up saying, yes, this is going to help me and this is what it's going to do for me, you're a lot more likely to get the green light than if you're going in single-threaded across one persona and one use case. So the first really important thing for us is to establish the cross-functional value that your product or solution is able to support in any organization. And that's the starting point. But Donald, the real challenge is how do we get in front of all of those different stakeholders and getting them singing off the same hymn sheet and really aligned. So that's I guess the art of sales in some ways. That's a lot easier said than done, but it's not obvious to everyone. So that's the foundation, is to ensure that we're aware of the fact that we need that buy-in from multiple people.
Yeah. So what is number 2, 3, and 4? Because I have some thoughts on number 1. I want to come back to.
Sure. So it's more kind of how do we activate that principle. So I think of it like having lots of plates spinning at once, just across multiple places within the business. It could be geographically or cross-functionally. We've termed what we call creating the groundswell, which is making sure we've got multiple people interested in our product at the same time, and at the same time piece is important. And then what we call working behind the scenes, creating the groundswell. When I have sellers coming in and they're like, right, we buy into the importance of creating that, almost going viral within the company pre-sale, make sure everyone knows about us. But then 3 years ago, that would have been fine because people were in meetings, they would have talked about you, you would have been able to present them all at the same time when they were all together. That doesn't happen so much anymore. So creating the groundswell is only half the battle. We then call something called working behind the scenes, making sure that all your hard work that you're doing isn't falling on deaf ears, and that prospect A is speaking to prospect B knows what you're doing with prospect C, connecting them and just keeping that momentum going, inviting them onto the same call, dropping emails, forwarding on one good bit of good feedback you've got onto another person, and almost manufacturing this momentum within the customer's environment, because it doesn't happen organically now. It used to just happen walking the corridors. Oh, did you just see that great pitch from HG Insights? I think we should go for that. What's your use case? over lunch or at the water cooler. It doesn't happen anymore. And as much as our prospects and customers are champions and they're passionate about what we do, everyone has a day job. We're only 1% of their world, and we need to remember that, and we need to make it as easy for them as possible to communicate the value of our solution, which kind of brings me on to the next point of your question around what are they? What are the other things we could be doing? So we create what we call partnership plans for any customer that gets to a proposal stage within our sales force. And this partnership plan is designed to do two things: make sure that we're aligned with the prospect on what their pain points are, what our solution is, and what the ROI is going to be. And if we're aligned with our prospect and they become a champion and they say, yes, we're now working with you to get this value into our business, then we want to arm that champion with everything they need, all the collateral they need to sell the value of HG internally. They almost become like an internal seller working for HG, but they're at the company we're trying to sell to, because they also have to then become a HG salesperson within their own four walls. And again, they might have the best intentions and get off the phone saying, this looks great, I'm really going to go to bat for you guys. But we have to appreciate that they're trying to sell their own product. They're trying to sell their own brand internally. Again, there's so many conflicting priorities. Everyone's so busy. If we spoon feed them what they need to look good internally, give them some teasers of what this is going to do for them, appeal to their boss's pain points, not just their pain points, and put it in a sexy looking PowerPoint with both logos on it and clearly articulates exactly what this is going to do for them. It might take us an hour, and you might say that's an hour out of the salesperson or the sales enablement team's day, but for 6 and 7 figure deals, and that's why I keep coming back to that, it's worth it. We spend so much time and money in our sales and marketing team getting to the point where we can send a proposal, spending an extra hour really thinking about 2 or 3 co-branded slides where we can arm our champion with what they need to go internally and sell the value is just time well spent, and it really helps reduce our sales cycles and improve our closing rates as a result.
Oh my goodness, I could just only imagine, if I'm working for one of these large enterprise level organizations, someone comes to me, or if I'm in that role and you give me that, and I just felt like, you did a lot of work for me, like you're my executive assistant. And that saves, even though you save an hour, it took an hour for you probably save me as the individual, maybe 2-3 hours trying to do that myself. I'm trying to gather that information. I love it. I want to go back to the top of it though, like the idea of getting those buy-in, getting the key people involved in the first place. Are there like, what are some of the mistakes you see people make when they try to do that? Because I think the whole single-threaded approach, every seller feel that I can close this person, but we know there's so much more, especially with the 6 and 7-figure deals. How do I effectively multi-thread essentially?
Sure, I think it's a good question, because I've got some sellers on my team that think big and try to go in at the top and align our value to much more strategic use cases. They know that's where the budget is. Yeah. But they're having 2 or 3 conversations a week, because those senior people are tough to get hold of and get their attention of. And then I've got other people in the team that are having 7 or 8 discussions a week, but they're pitching much more junior stakeholders, and therefore they're not getting to the senior audience that they ultimately need to get to. So the fact of the matter is, there's no shortcut in sales. You got to get stuck in. It's a numbers game, but you've got to be aware of the fact that you've got influencers and you've got decision makers. And you can't, in my opinion, be a really successful seller that continually beats quota and gets to President's Club every year if you're doing one or the other. You need to have both. You need the volume, you need the influence, you need the swell, but you also need the buy-in and the support of the executive team. So it's a matter of whether you've got an SDR or you're doing it, you're prospecting yourself. You just need to make sure that you've clearly mapped out the buying persona, the decision maker, the influencer journey of all within all of your customers. And LinkedIn is great for that. You don't need it to be structured in an org chart. You just need to make sure that you're aware of all the people that can help influence or commit budget to your product. So having that mapped out is important. It's like a money map that you can see who. You don't need everyone. Like I said, I think in my experience, you need at least 3 to 5 people putting their hands up saying, yep, I can vouch for this, I want this.
Yeah.
And then another great way of getting there is just asking the question. It's so surprising to me how little salespeople ask for help or referrals. Like, if you've just had a great demo with the VP of Sales Ops and they're like, this is great, I'm going to use it, I'm going to vouch for you. That's the perfect time to say, that's great, so that we can either reduce the amount of money you have to put towards this or increase your chances of getting this. Who's in charge of your product or your strategy or your business development, whatever the personas are that your listeners' product can help with? That's the best time to just say, look, help me help you. Who's responsible for these other things that my product can help your business with that complement what you're going to be doing with it? And let's work together on making sure that this has got the awareness that it needs within your organization. Just asking that question can double the amount of exposure you have within an organization within 10 seconds, rather than having to go and do it the hard way and prospect into these people.
As we wrap up this episode here, a lot of great stuff that we talked about. Is there one major piece of insight you want sellers to leave with? I mean, folks who are using their phones or doing outreach, trying to close these 6-7 figure deals. Is there anything that we missed that you want them to leave with, or just at least walk away from what we've discussed already?
Just to lighten it up a little bit, for me, I always approach the job as a game. Like, at the end of the day, if you get too stressed about it, or you get too anxious or too worked up, or you overthink it, it's going to impact your performance. So you just want to approach it as, look, there's companies out there that want to buy my product. I need to go and find them. It's gonna be hard work, but don't define your mood by how well a call goes or your day goes, because you're gonna have great days, you're gonna have bad days, and if it impacts your mood, you're gonna constantly be in this kind of yo-yo state of mind. So just detach yourself from that. Have a process, have a blueprint, be methodical in your approach, and at the end of each week, not at the end of every call or end of every day, look at your process objectively and say, where am I winning and where am I not? And let's just fine tune it a little bit. And next week's going to be better than this week as a collective, because I'm going to get a little bit better. So don't overstress it, don't overthink it. Sales is tough. It can be fun, it can be rewarding, but just have that kind of methodical, robotic approach to your day-to-day, and be aware of the fact that you can get better each week. And then I think over the course of a month and a quarter and a year, you're going to become world-class in no time.
Hey, go ahead and connect with Scott. If you haven't done so already, you can find him on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the show. Also, tell your friends, your cousin, your ma, your pa, everyone that you know how they can benefit from the podcast as well. Connect with me on Instagram, Donald C. Kelly, or on LinkedIn, Donald C. Kelly. I appreciate you. Most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking, but because before you can build pipe, Before you can close a deal, you need to believe and you need to have the mindset that it is possible. And you need to raise that level of thinking. I want you to go out and do big things. Thank you so much for watching.